All right, we shall call the Waterworks and Lighting Commission meeting to order. Number 2, the approvals, additions, or corrections to the minutes of the following meetings. Regular commission meeting held on January 13th, 2016.
I would move for approval.
Second that.
Okay, John Bergen made the motion and Joe made the second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Special commission meeting held on January 20th, 2016.
I move every accepted minute, place them on file.
Joe made the motion.
I'll second.
Mike second his motion. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, number 3, action items. NISC CIS regional training request. Can I ask what CIS regional training, what CIS means?
Can I ask what NISC is?
I'm sorry, I knew it.
Okay, I'm a
Customer
new.
Information System,
Okay.
and NISC is our billing and accounting system provider. All of our, pretty much paperless now. We're working, except for work orders, which we're continuing to work on. But
What does NISC stand for?
National Information Solutions Cooperative.
Oh,
Is it general or is it specific to utilities?
Joel will know more specifics on the training.
This particular session is specific to, excuse me, utility customer billing topics.
And so is the billing software, I guess. It's geared towards only utilities, yes.
And this is in Illinois, so it's a national thing then, or?
No, this is specifically geared for the upper Midwest.
Oh, okay.
They have about 6 of these a
Yeah.
year
Okay.
staggered throughout the country, so this is the closest one to us this
Okay.
year.
The national conference each year is in St. Louis. This regional training is a little more hands-on.
Want to talk about that a little bit, hands-on?
More geared towards frontline employees,
Okay.
much more in depth. National conference tends to be like 30,000 foot view.
I would move for approval.
Okay, John Bergen made a motion to approve,
Yeah, I'll second it.
and Mike Phillips second. Is there any other discussion? Not all in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, 3.2, AWWA National Conference Request.
Dale, you want to tell them what the date changes?
Yeah, the date on here is a typo, it should have been the 19th to the 22nd, not the 9th. Quite a bit shorter time frame. Okay.
3-week conference is a little long, yeah.
We might run out of lodging.
While this is brought up, commissioners might be thinking if they would like to attend either conference this year, as the CAWWA is in Chicago this year, and APPA is also is being held in Phoenix. And I think it starts, what's that, June 14th or something like that?
June 10th.
10th to the 14th.
Somebody like to make a motion, or did we have that already?
I'll move that we approve their request.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Not all in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, a motion carried. Building automation systems quotes.
I think what we're gonna do is table this, either till next month, or if we have a special commission meeting in between, we can handle it. After further discussion with staff, our comfort level with the bids isn't, I guess, there because they were so different, and one bid everything we wanted, the other one didn't bid everything in the specifications, so we're going to get a couple, we tried to stay local with it. As you can see, both these entities are local. But we plan to get bids either from an Appleton contractor or a Clover contractor as well, just to get another look at it.
What's a VFD?
Variable frequency drive,
Oh.
put them on pumps to save energy and fans.
Okay,
So-
building automation also is really broad spectrum. Is this strictly building temperature
Yeah.
automation?
Control system,
It's
yeah.
actually a system to control the heating sources and each room, so they can actually look it up and see what room demands are. So it's more temperature controlled and less, more efficient, that way you're not putting out more heat, roasting somebody in a room that doesn't need to be, and vice versa. So it's more efficient all the way around. Right now, the current controls are old and not working, so when it calls for heat, there are some places that are getting barbecued and some are not, so.
Is there a return on investment for this?
Well, I don't know if we actually calculated it, because the pneumatic controls we have now are basically can't be replaced and they're shot, so we've got to do something. But as we get another bid, we can check with the contractors and see what their thoughts are on payback.
Be good to know that.
Yeah. This will allow us to set thermos temperatures in each room by the time of day it is and everything else, so it should contribute to some energy savings. But we'll either bring it back next month with further bids or at a special commission meeting.
Did we cover that in the budget?
Yes, it's in the budget. But actually, the budget's budgeted for 100 grand, and it came back under the budget, but we just don't have the comfort level with the bids and the confidence level in the contractors, I guess.
All right, then we'll table the building automation system quotes. 3.4, annual purchase of distribution transformers.
We go out for bids every January for the year's supply of distribution transformers. And this year, the low bidder, which was Resco, is the one I'm recommending. They also give us a patronage allocation refund check, which should be in the neighborhood of about $10,000 for this purchase. So those transformers are made in America, some in Texas, some in Wisconsin, and then others in Tennessee.
Does this allow us to continue with like a consistent inventory?
It gives us, we anticipate what we have for projects for the year, and we look at our end of the year inventory, and then we stock according to that. This year we got some more pad mount transformers that we want to replace in the industrial park and in the downtown area. So there were a few higher end products on this than normal, so the price was a little higher than we normally have for the year. But that's the intent, is to purchase them all at one time, get these special prices, and then not have to do it again until January.
So how many transformers?
There's roughly about 60 to 70 transformers on this. Yeah, all of varying sizes from 10 kVA all the way up to 500 kVA. Yep.
Is the handout different than what's on?
It doesn't have the title block on it, and also I omitted Wesco, which was one of the high bidders.
Okay,
So I had to add that
Thank you.
fourth bidder to the group.
But the ERMCO transformers, I know we've talked about the Coopers in the past, but the ERMCO are ones that you've been using in the past also?
We've primarily purchased Cooper and ERMCO, and typically the ABB and the Howard transformers have always been high in the 8 years that I've been here. But so it's always been more of a, it's either been Resco or BSC that's always been awarded the product. And BSC is all Cooper, where Resco represents ERMCO and Cooper. They give you the choice, and you can actually go and pick. Let's say ERMCO's cheaper on some, but Cooper's cheaper on others, and it allows them to, you know, get a better price in the long run.
I move for approval.
Second.
John Bergen made a motion to approve the distribution transformers, and Mike Phillips, second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, 3.5, APPA National Conference request.
So this year, for the APP National Conference, which is in Phoenix, Arizona, I'm making a recommendation to send Moses to this. I've attended it the last 3 years in a row, and I think it would be a really good experience for him.
I make a motion we approve.
Mike Phillips made a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Second.
I beat you.
You did.
Rick Burdan, second. Wish you guys want to flip a coin.
Can we, you mentioned commissioners attending, can we see agendas of these to?
Yeah, so I'll see how
whether or not it's
detailed
worthwhile?
they are at this point. They may not be real detailed, but as soon as we get agendas, we'll
Publications here.
send them off to you,
And do
Okay.
you
so
know
you
what
can take a look at them.
what is the deadline?
Well, we've already, because the AWA one is so well attended, we've already got the room reservations made because it's so hard to get a hotel for the AWWA ones. So we have extra rooms that we can either cancel at no fee or whatever when we get closer to the date. But I don't think we've done anything for APPA yet, but it's usually not as big attended because not everybody, everybody owns their own electric system. Like there's only probably 2,000 or so utilities in this United States, so we haven't done anything there. But we'll get you what we have, we'll email it to you, and then as the more detail comes out, we'll send it to you.
All right, did we vote on this yet? I don't think so.
I was gonna ask you a question. Yeah, we have vote yes or no, or if Rick wanted to go later on?
Well, no, we don't, we won't need approval for you guys to go, and generally, we don't do that. This is just staff for going out of state.
Okay. Now, did you wanna?
Okay, I think we had a motion and a second, and we had some discussion. And how about all those in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Department updates, Safety Committee. Any comments? Questions? Okay, line superintendent. Report.
Fiber optic, where is it being installed for what?
I can answer that too. What we're doing is we're replacing the radios for the SCADA system. So we put in fiber optic from our Peach Street substation right behind our building to our west water tower. And then we also, from our number 3 well and the Baker substation, they're kind of one and the same. We pulled fiber optic from that location to wells 1, well 2, and well 5. So we're in the process either later this week or early next week of actually putting that in service. So the only 2 radios left on the SCADA system then will be the east water tower and well number 4, which we intend to pull fiber at those 2 locations this year. It's in this year's budget. And that way the SCADA system will be completely off of the radios. And if these locations, we're going to take a look at are close to any of the AMI collectors, we're going to start trying to incorporate those into it as well, because there's 12 fibers in the cable that we're pulling. We only need 2 for the SCADA system, so we have 10 spares.
We've been having a few, as the years go by, and Matt can speak to this probably better than I, but we've been having a lot of radio interference on our AMI system, getting the reads back in. Just more people operating on our frequency. So the goal is ultimately to get the SCADA system land, and it should be done this year with its own backbone on fiber, and then also to migrate the AMI to fiber as we go along in a cost-effective manner if the runs are close. And then ultimately, if we can't get there cost-effectively with fiber, we're likely to go with a cell phone line to get the reads.
Can we do something with that from a safety standpoint as well?
Yeah, I'm open at some point at the substations to install cameras and then using some of the spare fibers to bring back those pictures to this location.
The other thing I'm thinking about is chlorine.
Well, the SCADA system already has chlorine alarms. We have both a pump room alarm and then the well room alarm at each well location. So you have a chlorine sensor that's looking in both rooms at every well, and it gives us the alarm on the SCADA system.
So is that a hardware?
That's a hardwired alarm.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Anything else? If not, we'll go to the Water Department Operations Report. Dale, I can't figure out your picture here.
Yeah, what is that?
It looks to me like you're in big trouble here.
Looks like a bazooka or something.
Is this a water main that's up on top of the street, or?
What that actually is a piece of water main where we took out of 4th Avenue North, by the
Okay.
mill there, we had that break. We actually had to cut out lower 6.5 feet of pipe, and that's the piece of pipe in the back of the truck. Shows the 2 holes in it that have blown out of it. It's kind of an idea of what was
Well,
going
there's
on.
a shadow behind on the left side, and it almost looks like there's water shooting out of it.
It should be.
Okay, I get it.
We need to hire a better photographer.
It scared the devil out of me. And I looked at it, and I looked down at new meter orders, and right above it, that picture, boy.
You should see the old ones.
So what does this say about the rest of that pipe in that area?
Well, this here is actually an area where the main is old, and there's a valve just to the south of that where the main is recently, not recent, but fairly new. So going to the north of that valve, which includes this area, the main is getting pretty old and need a replacement down the road, along with 3rd Avenue, which runs a parallel with that, also has a lot of breaks on it and so forth over the last couple of years. So it's something we're going to have to work into our pipe replacement schedule to try and get some of these replaced or lined or something so we can avoid these big kind of breaks and so forth.
It sounds like something we need to be working with the city on.
And we are.
Good.
So are those holes, are those typical of what happens with a,
No, because of the age of the pipe and the condition of the pipe, typically when you get a water break, the pipe breaks and you just get a crack that goes all the way
Yeah,
around it when
right.
the water comes out.
right?
This here is the area where the pipe is rotten, and when it started to leak, it actually blew a big area of the pipe out. So which forced us to have to actually cut the pipe out and replace it with a piece of new stuff, so.
Based on what you see here, I know there was talk about the insert process, right? Is that for water?
Yes,
Inserts?
we can reline the water lines today, kind of like the city's doing with Chestnut on the sewer.
Right.
So it is possible for us to do that, yeah, on those either replace it or line it are your 2 choices.
Right, and based on what you see from the failure here, would that liner,
There's a couple different liners that are out there. There's one liner that if you put it inside of this pipe, if the pipe totally rots away,
Yeah.
the liner will take over and support just fine.
yeah?
There's another one that will not do that. You could also do a pipe bursting type thing. You pull another pipe through here, breaking the old one, give it room for it to pull through, and then you'd have to dig up each and every service and make a retap on that service going off of it. So it all depends on cost effectiveness to which project you go versus open cut and replace the pipe. And condition of the road plays a big part in it also. For example, on 3rd Avenue going to the north between the mills back there, the mill actually owns the street. We own the water main, of course. So someday down the road, if they ever decide to replace the road surface, it'd be a good time for us to go in and do the water main before that happens. But that's unforeseen when it's going to materialize. But So it's things you gotta work on and look at all aspects of the project, so.
I don't think that's high on their list right now.
No doubt.
Anything else? If not, the office manager's report.
Comment, fantastic in terms of the arrears. The question that is partially answered here, but not completely, and that is, what is the percent of what we've written off that's recovered? You've got a number here for what happened.
Well, it's kind of hard to, since what we've written off essentially stays down at the State Debt Collection Agency until it's collected. It's kind of hard to say this is the exact percent because of the timing differences. Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think last year, didn't we get back more than we'd actually written off?
I think we did up into when we did the big write-off in
At the end of the
November,
year.
but yeah, we were pretty successful last year in collection.
Yeah.
So you're close to 100%?
Well, I mean, when you look at it, you know, so right now there might be close to $500,000 down at the Department of Revenue for them to collect. We might write off between $60,000 and $100,000 this year in revenue, but they'll be working then on that $500,000 to collect it. So if they collect 25% of that, they're going to collect $125,000. So it's going to look like we collected more than we've written off. But it's just because it's cumulative year over year.
Yeah, so because of that timing difference, it's kind of hard to say this is the percent we're getting back. Suffice it to say that we're happy with the results.
Yeah.
I wanted to commend Joel. A customer brought up an issue that they were having with billing, and through discussions, I think Joel handled it very well. And I talked to them after I talked to you, and they're happy with
Good.
what they're happy with what transpired. So, well, I shouldn't say happy.
I don't think they're.
Not happy. No, not happy. But they're satisfied that the resolution made sense.
Good to hear.
And then, as long as we're on that too, John alluded to it, but does the Verso bankruptcy, where does that put us?
Well, it puts us in contact with the lawyers. Where it puts us.
Okay, all right.
It's hard to say what will totally be out. We were, I think I emailed the commissioners as well, but we had collected some portion of a deposit because they were late in their last couple months of
Right.
payment. Problem was they only made one payment towards the deposit, and I don't really think we should be talking about the amounts at this point in time. But through the 5 years ago, through the last proceeding, we were able to get adequate assurances going forward, meaning they still had to come up with a deposit. And we were able to reacquire some of that money we lost post-filing, so to speak. So we're hoping to get a portion of that back too. It's just not water, it's sewer, and it's about evenly split between the two.
And priority claims are due with bankruptcy court on Monday, and our attorneys are working on that, and we'll have at least our priority claim for the 20 days prior to the bankruptcy filed by that date.
What I was concerned with was not just unpaid bills, but then clawback. Are we subject to the clawback or not?
What do you mean by clawback?
For example, other companies here in town, the last bankruptcy, not only did they not get paid for what they were owed, but any money they received in the previous 3 months, they had to pay back under the clawback bankruptcy proceedings.
So
Utilities, I think, are a little different under the
Okay.
bankruptcy law, so,
Okay.
so I think we should be.
Okay, and I don't know the
Yeah.
particulars, but I know they were double hurt, so.
Okay.
but every time they reorganize and refile, it's generally a pretty good hit to both the electric and the sewer utility. So we're able to get adequate assurances going forward, but generally we only get a third to a half maybe of that money back
Anything else? If not, the Director of Finance report.
You mentioned the drivers for the change between the industrial power and the large power.
Sure.
What's the driver for the general service change?
The flip between the two, you mean?
Yeah,
Um,
no, just the flip between the two I understand,
okay.
but the general service, single phase is also down. You know, you mentioned residential is probably temperature related. What's the?
General service as well is probably temperature related, because these are smaller accounts where it's basically heating and air conditioning and lighting. You know,
Okay.
no process load at all.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Let's say Jeff did a good job budgeting
Yeah.
revenues the prior year. He's pretty close on both of them.
Couldn't get a lot closer.
Oh, it could be zero.
Yeah, we'll shoot for that this year.
All right.
Start working on that other issue. Okay, Information Systems Administrator report.
So is the building control system, is that partially driven by, or is it mainly driven by like server room temperature or anything?
separate.
Completely, okay. And how's the mobile solution going?
Pretty good. Yeah, water crew's been using it 2 weeks now, about 2 weeks. They seem to like it, they're getting used to it, and I just gave it to the electric trouble truck on Monday. They've been using it for a couple of days, so we're just working through some stuff, getting them used to using the system, and it seems to be going well.
Do they find Siri helpful?
That I don't know. That's not one of my questions.
More concerned with them updating the maps correctly.
Yeah.
I don't think Siri can do that for them.
Never know.
Anything else? If not, well, Conservation Manager report.
Your scholarship fully subscribed, not here to answer the.
He did work with the local high schools, and I think he sent something over to Mid-State to get the applications out. Applications are due April 1st? April 1st, so we'll be seeing what we get back there.
Yeah, I know he was placing a lot of calls to teachers and letting them know it was coming and everything else, so hopefully we'll get more interest this year.
Just an FYI, February 24th is Mid-State Engineering Day, and so they're trying to recruit from all the area schools, kids that are interested in engineering, those type of programs, to come to Mid-State. I don't know if we have like a synopsis or a little information or whatever, but that might be helpful to have available, because those are the types of kids probably that would be applicable for that.
I'll talk with Sean and see if he can't get something over their applications or whatever for that event.
But it's actually engineering and technology, right?
Well, they're calling, it's Gary's, they call it Engineering Day, but it's really, it's for the whole T&I.
Right.
Yeah, so it'd be, those that are coming for that, I think would be very applicable. You'd have a pretty good
Right.
chance of getting the right demographics there. for that.
Good idea.
Anything else? If not, Director of Engineering and Electrical Operations.
Oh, can I ask one question? Did anybody know,
Sure.
last time we talked about the Focus on Energy kits? Are those coming or? what's-
They are, the residential kits
Yeah.
are now available. I mean, we were hoping to work with Focus on letting us have some here to hand out to
Yep.
customers, but they wouldn't allow us to do that.
Oh, okay.
So what we plan to do is hit the billing insert with it. I think actually the newsletter is coming out. has a
Newsletter
piece
goes
on it.
in, Cycle One Bills tonight, there's an article on the back page about these. very
So all they
things.
gotta do is go online and sign up, and then the stuff, one good part about it is we're out of it, so we don't have anything as far as the delivery side of it. They just ship it directly from
Yeah.
the factory to the customer, and so we'll see how it takes off, but it should be a good program.
Are there restrictions on that, or is that something that could be
I
widely
think that-
communicated?
I don't think there are restrictions on it as long as they can keep up. I think they are restricting it to one submission per household.
Okay, right, but,
But anybody, as long as they're a utility customer in the state,
okay.
will have access to them. And they're free.
Yeah, right, free LED bulb, I mean. Why wouldn't you want that?
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay, Director of Engineering and Electrical Operations report. No, we didn't.
Okay.
40 below wind chill, what day was that?
Oh, January 18th. That was the night of January 18th.
Okay.
Lines get pretty tight at that temperature. huh?
They do, yeah, and, you know, the break happened just right where we had a tree come down on the line during the summer windstorm, and so it seemed pretty obvious that it must have been a combination of the two that caused that.
But Todd, 2 Saturdays ago, it was another nice sunny day and I lost power at noon.
I would blame a squirrel on that one.
It will be nice to get in the Gainer. It's our last sub to get rid of the high side fuses, so it'll be nice to we're hoping that'll help out that substation.
I remember putting my little pig on the board for your neighborhood, Tom. I'm pretty sure that was a squirrel. Do you remember that?
What area was it?
Riverwood Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a squirrel.
Ah,
Yeah.
So you haven't been getting enough of them with your pellet.
oh, I got plenty of them. And I get a lot of them with my pellet gun. Shouldn't say that on tape.
I didn't say quit feeding them.
Just kidding, right? Just kidding.
All right, anything else for Todd? If not, General Manager report?
In this write-up on ATC, my question is, did ATC agree that a lower return would result in lower transmission charges?
Yes. I mean, they're essentially, when this lawsuit, or this FERC hearing or proceeding started, they have basically, they haven't reduced their rates yet, no, but what they have done is they've been withholding a portion of the owner's income down to that 10% level, because there's feeling that that's probably where it's going to end up. So we've actually been making less money on our ATC investment for the last year and a couple months, because they've been holding aside money that they're going to have to give back to customers if they lose this proceeding.
Okay.
And then they would have to adjust their rates going forward once they pay off the credits from when the complaint is filed.
Okay. So, because it isn't necessarily intuitive that,
No,
yeah,
No, John.
Well, what's best for the utility? You know, is it better that we get a better investment from this? Or is it, I guess you have to think of the ratepayer too.
that's what we're here for, so that's why I always think as long as, if our customers get lower rates for whatever the reason, then that's a good thing for us. I mean, with our return drops a couple percentage points, I would much rather have the customers have better rates, and transmission rates have gotten out of hand lately.
Okay.
From the water utility legislation that's going through, thanks for sending that article. Do we know where our local representation stands on this?
As far as the council or the local legislators or?
Legislators, yeah.
I think that, from what I'm hearing, is LASA is against it. And the Republican here, the name escapes me.
Krug?
Krug is for it.
Okay.
And everybody's been checking to see if there are any systems for sale, and there are none, so I don't know. Unless the people supporting the legislation, which is all LEED or all pure or something like that, has a couple systems on the line that they're talking to. But right now, there is one system in Wisconsin that is owned by an out-of-state entity, and it's Superior. And if you go on the PSC website and look at their rates, they have by far the highest water rates in the state. So, I guess I don't see as much of a threat, but,
Is it?
Isn't the legislation is trying to avoid having the voters vote on that?
Referendum.
A referendum,
a
going to a
referendum, correct, yeah.
They'd rather have the utility vote on whether to sell it or not? Is that
Well,
the
it
thing?
would be, I mean, it would not only require, if they have a commission, it'd be the utility commission and the city council would have to approve
Yeah.
of selling the system.
And that's the way it is right now.
Correct.
And that
But-
the legislation wants to go to
Right
a
now, it
referendum.
would require a referendum.
As
But it
well?
doesn't, right now, present law requires a transfer or a sale between city entities or regional entities. It does not allow for a private owner. So what's changing in the law is allowing private owners and then not going through the referendum process. So I think the league has actually supported the bill, where MUW and Megwater, the utility, two sides of the equation are opposing the bill vigorously. But I don't
think
see it
where some
having a
of
big
this comes
impact.
from, though, is like the situation in Flint
Flint, yeah.
is, you know, where the public folks hid the problem for years, okay? So, and now the taxpayers are on the hook to fix that, okay? So the concept is, if it's privately held, that you've got an entity then, a business, that you can hold responsible for the quality of the water.
Instead of taxpayer, it'd be the ratepayer.
It would be the ratepayer who takes care of it. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I don't really see a lot of water systems being sold as a result of this bill. I mean, I just don't see it, but.
Do you know what MEUW's position would be if the bill would be to allow to sale, private sale, but still have the referendum?
MUW would support the bill, so would Megwater if the referendum were included.
Okay, good, thank you.
And that's what they're pushing for in the Senate, but I don't know if they'll get it or not.
In the PowerPoint that was attached to your report, tell me what they mean by federalization.
Which page is
Which
that?
slide?
It's a slide, I don't know, the slides don't seem to be numbered. Either that or my cheat notes covered it up. Avoiding federalization of distributed generation. It says address increased federal regulation.
I think they're just meaning to keep the federal government out of the generation equation altogether, whether it's renewables or whatever. That's always what EPA's espoused. And if you didn't hear, which I'm probably sure you did, the Supreme Court yesterday
yeah.
put a stay on the Clean Power Act until it's litigated. So, and that is set to start June 2nd.
So what does that mean in practical terms?
Well, it means, I think it gives the people suing the federal government a little bit of a leg up, because nobody ever thought the Supreme Court would stay it. So, but as far as implementation, I mean, we're still all working towards, 2022 when it takes effect, and having a plan in place. We have to have a plan in place by 2018. So the utilities in the state are working together still to develop a plan, and we'll follow the court case very, very closely.
Is there any opinions on what the likely outcome would be in terms of, would the court say X, Y, or Z, and X, Y, or Z would mean this, that, or the other?
Well, I know a lot of the arguments before the Supreme Court, as far as attempting to get the stay, was revolving around the federal government determining basically what states win, what states don't win, as far as the legislation, bankrupting certain companies while increasing the value of others, just because of legislation and a number of other things that were argued, and the general cost of electricity and how it's going to skyrocket.
Yeah, I don't think there's been enough communication to the public about the fact that power is gonna increase by 30 to 50%.
Well, we did I took the presentation from, was it Jeff? Was it?
Yep, from the PSC.
Yeah, we did the Rotary presentation, shared that with the Rotary group, probably a couple months ago or whatever. And a lot of good discussion about, all the charts in terms of what's going to happen, basically what's going to happen to rates. So, no, there's not a lot out there, but if that were to get out, I think it would definitely generate a lot of discussion, especially when you're talking about, when there's talk about a rate going up a couple percent,
Right.
and you hear all the pushback, and then you look at some of those charts and say, okay, hold
Yeah.
on to your pants,
And it kills the folks that are least able to
Right.
pay.
Correct.
Also, further in that PowerPoint, the cyber and physical preparedness comments, are we where we should be locally in
I
terms
think
of?
so. I mean, I don't know that we're a big threat up here in Rapids, but I mean, as Todd mentioned, we're going to be putting cameras on subs, and that's being recommended by NERC now.
Right.
And, all the conferences we're attending, and I think Matt knows that our computer systems are well secured and firewalled and those things. So I think, yeah, we're moving that way.
We try to keep our ear to the ground and listen to what's coming up and then get ahead of it, so that we're either implemented or ready to be implemented at the time whenever new rules come out.
And the big thing with the SCADA system is it's on its own network, so that it can't be hacked into from an outside entity.
What about the water system?
It's the same.
Same.
It's the same system.
Just as a general question, it's a little bit, it's out there, but, there was talk about with the North Korean missile launch and the potential either with that or in the future of having an EMP device. Would that take down everything?
Yeah, pretty much.
It would.
Yeah.
And there's nothing yet out there on technology to prevent that.
No. I mean, they're shielded, but it's really, really expensive for large areas. I mean, you can use it on cabling, that's pretty standard. It's an expensive markup on the cable. So technology's there, it's just really expensive to implement.
Well, what is it, what would, what currently what would shield? Anything? Or you're saying cable-wise, there is shielding or whatever, but,
You'd almost have to build a cage around whatever it is you want to shield.
okay.
Faraday cage around
Pretty much,
the
yeah.
entire electrical system.
Yep.
Not practical, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything on the horizon for that, or no? Just,
I mean, and they've talked about it for years and
Yeah.
years and years as being a threat, but it's just getting more attention now because of all the talk about cyber threats. But it would just be too cost prohibitive. I mean, one
Yeah.
of those things where customers couldn't afford the rates, they'd have to.
Right.
To generate that large of a pulse where it would take out, say, an entire town, it would almost have to be a nuclear blast of some sort. You just can't generate that large of a pulse with a device unless
You know-
it's the size of a semi.
and what would, you know, what's the radius of that then? You know what I mean? So if their long range could make it to California, and they did explode it over California, how much of the grid does that take down?
Well, your grid is divided with your NERC into like 8 sections, so I would say your whole west coast would probably
It
get
would take the
affected.
whole section down. I
Yeah.
think.
All right, after that happy note. Review of accounts payable. I didn't get, we just have the cash flow summaries?
The cash flow summary and then the check register, there's no financial statements since we're
Yeah,
still in the year close.
We didn't get the check register.
Not included on there?
No, just the,
It finishes up with the cash flow summary.
Okay.
Oh, mine's got it.
Yeah, me too.
Accounts payable?
I don't have it.
do we have to
You're not
resync?
accessing it from the website, are you?
No, from the packet.
Where are you accessing?
You getting it from the
Huh?
packet?
I got it on email.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what you're looking at from the email?
Yeah, I don't have it on the app right now.
Yeah, it's probably my fault.
So, yeah, I didn't have any questions on that.
We can
But
include
Joel's
it.
red shirt is appropriate
We
from a
can
cash
include
flow
it.
standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, and typically January is a negative cash flow for the utility.
Because,
Well, there's usually lower utility receipts in January than there's been like in December. It's just historically a lower month, and there's more accounts payable going out the door with the new budget year. There's more spending going on.
Todd's Transformers.
That'll be next month.
I mean, just for comparison, you know, we were down about $280,000 in 2016 and 2015. That number was about $420,000. So even though it's negative, it's a better negative than it was last year.
Yeah, the only thing I'm missing is the actual cash register.
We can include that in next month's too, just so you have it.
Well, why don't you just
I'll just
mail it out to them after
Yeah.
the meeting, and then we can see if there are any questions.
do that. I'll email it to you.
Thanks for sending that APPA update in the forefront.
Should be getting more of that here in a couple of weeks out at the EPA CEO conference, so it's got a great agenda for that, so.
All right, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have John made a motion and Joe second, and all those in agreement?
Aye.
All right, thank you.